Welcome. I'm Andrew Fazekas, the Night Sky Guy, your host for the Night Sky this week for June 5th, 2023. Thanks so much for joining me, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter. I hope you had a great weekend. Did some sky watching, perhaps? Maybe you had some clear skies here and there. Did you see the strawberry full moon? Lots of beautiful things in the night sky. And I'm broadcasting you from Montreal, Canada. We had some really beautiful clear skies, got to do some stargazing, and there's some really cool things happening now in the sky this week too. So please put in your chat in the comments where you're watching from. I'd love to see where all my friends are. And if you're watching this on demand after this broadcast, still please do put in where you're watching from. I'd love to see that. So without further ado, let's just jump right in and see what the night sky has to offer. So I'll boot up the planetarium program, my Sky Safari that I have, and we've got the sky set for just after sunset, looking towards the west. And of course, what will greet you is that beautiful bright star. If you haven't seen it, or maybe you've seen it and you just have been wondering what it is, that's planet Venus. Venus is the brightest object right now, star-like object in the sky in the evening, after the moon, of course. And it is just spectacular in how brilliant it is and eye-catching. And now what's really neat is, Venus has been very close to two other stars, and you can see that in here. I'm going to zoom in. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Pollux and Castor, which are part of the main stars of Gemini, the zodiacal sign. And Venus was paired up with these two stars just a few days ago. There was just almost a beautiful pair, an alignment between those three star-like objects. And now Venus has moved off away from the Gemini star pair. But you may notice that Mars is very close by too. It's an orange-colored star, much fainter than Venus, and that's because Mars is about the third the size of Venus and much farther away. Over 300 million kilometers away is where Mars is from us, while Venus is just over 100 million kilometers away. So that distance and the size of them, the relative size, makes Mars fainter as well. And of course, Venus is enshrouded with very bright clouds too. That makes it very bright in our skies too. Now, what's really interesting, let me zoom in on this. This is now showing you what it looks like on Monday evening after sunset. And what I want you to notice, I'm going to make it like 1 hour later, so the skies are darker. Okay, let me just go here like that. And you can see clearly there's that distance. Mars is in Cancer the Crab, as is Venus now too. But look what I'm going to do. I'm going to change this to going on a daily basis. We're going to switch from Monday to Tuesday to Wednesday, Thursday. Watch Venus. Keep watching. Thursday, Friday, right? Friday, this is the 9th of June. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and then next week, Monday. See what I'm talking about? That the distance between Mars and Venus are collapsing. They're going to be going into a conjunction soon enough. But before that, look what Venus is encountering. It's going to be zooming by this beautiful star cluster, the Beehive. Mars was just in the middle of the Beehive Cluster. Now it is going to be Venus's turn. So this is by Sunday, the 11th of June, where they're going to be really close to each other. Look at this. I'm going to zoom in. And this is going to give you what it looks like through a pair of binoculars. This is about what you would be able to see. Really beautiful. Let's check on the comments. I've got Jack from Santa Monica, California. Hi, Jack. Great of you to join us. Jojo from Socorro, New Mexico. David is in Northwest Ohio. Lots of smoke. I know what you're talking about, David, because here in Quebec province in Canada, we have lots of forest fires up north. And you should see the sun where it is. For me, I think it's blowing a lot of the smoke, and I've got this orangey haze. Like the sun is not shining as bright as it usually is, and definitely it's affecting the viewing here as well. I've got Alan from New Zealand. Welcome. So nice of you to join us. And by the way, a lot of these things that we're talking about today is also visible in the southern hemisphere. So I'm not leaving you guys out there, my friends in the south. You guys are able to see this. The orientation will be different, yes. It won't be the same orientation, but the objects will be there. The Venus will be close to the Beehive Cluster for you as well. I've got Betty from Kansas as well, Sarah from Michigan. So nice of you guys to join me today. And so we're talking here about the Beehive Cluster. Love the Beehive. This is what it looks like close up, just so you guys have an idea. It's 610 light years away. It's a collection of young stars born in the same star cloud millions of years ago, and they're slowly moving apart from each other. Just a gorgeous sight through a telescope too. So if you do have access to a telescope, by all means, bring it out, because this star cluster that's over 600 light years away from us is still just beautiful. And look at the view in binoculars. I just absolutely love this Venus and the star cluster together. And this is Sunday. By Monday next week, the 12th, and I'll talk about this next week's broadcast. Don't worry, I'm going to bring it up. I'm not going to forget about this one. But you can see next week, Venus is just gliding right next to the cluster. Just a beautiful sight. So don't miss that. Mark your calendar. Keep watching Venus getting closer and closer to the Beehive Cluster this week. So let me just put this back. And another thing that's really neat is, well, you know that the moon on Saturday, we had the full moon just this past Saturday on the weekend, right, on the 3rd of June. And here we are on the 5th of June. We're past it. And the moon is basically rising later and later at night. And this is great because this week, especially later this week, as the moon really becomes a morning object, an early morning, a pre-dawn object, those of us in the evening time get a great opportunity to see the sky without the moon's bright glare. And this is perfect for looking at the supernova. Now, you might have heard of the Pinwheel Galaxy. We talked about it last week's broadcast, that it's something that you need at least very strong binoculars, dark skies, but a small telescope to see it. And you need to be familiar with the sky to be able to find it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you guys. If you're new to the hobby, I would say it's really difficult to find and see and notice. Maybe perhaps you have an amateur astronomy club with a star party where you could go and take a peek through a telescope that an amateur astronomer has set up to look at this supernova. That's probably your best bet. But if you're willing to dig in, you have a telescope, strong binoculars, maybe you're in the countryside, you've got dark skies, or a large telescope in the suburbs, like in my situation, we can actually go and look at it. Now, what's really interesting about this supernova, this is a giant star that explodes. It happens about once a century in a galaxy. And we're, by the way, overdue in the Milky Way galaxy. We haven't had a bright supernova in our galaxy for a few centuries now. And what's really interesting here is that this Pinwheel Galaxy is called Messier 101. The popular romantic name is Pinwheel because the Pinwheel Galaxy is something, well, let me show you. It's really beautiful. It's also called M101. And here is a picture of it. It's about 21 million light years away. Isn't that just absolutely super gorgeous? You can see why it's called the Pinwheel Galaxy, with those beautiful spiral arms wrapped around the central core of the galaxy. There's hundreds of millions of stars that you're actually looking at, the combined light. It's sort of like, imagine flying in a jet aircraft, right? You're flying at about 40,000 feet in the air, and you're flying over a small city or town. What would you see? You don't necessarily see the individual lights from backyard porches and street lights. You see the combined light, right? The combined light of the city of or neighborhoods. And that's what you're seeing here is the combined light of hundreds of millions of stars clustered together in forming these arms, these spiral arms that wrap around that central core, hugging that core. Isn't that just gorgeous? And you see these knots, these bright knots of light. Those are like star clusters, giant nebulae, gas and dust clouds that are home to baby stars or exploding stars in some cases, like a supernova remnant. And you can see them. Here's another good one out here, another one here that are bright. And these are visible, by the way. These knot-like structures are visible through backyard telescopes. And I know you may ask, how big of a telescope do I need to see the supernova explosion? Probably at least a 4-inch telescope, something with a 4-inch mirror or a 4-inch wide lens, preferably a mirror that's about 8 inches, so an 8-inch telescope to 12-inch telescope. Something in that range will really bring it out much more easily, especially if you live in light polluted conditions in cities, in suburbs. So that is and the supernova is kind of located around here on the edge next to this gas structure, this basically a star factory gas cloud. And it's right next to here. It's not in this picture because this picture was taken a few years ago by an amateur astronomer, but that's where it's located. And where all this action is happening, you can see where I've marked it here. It's just off the tail of the Big Dipper, the handle of the Big Dipper, which of course is part of the Ursa Major Big Bear constellation. I absolutely love this because it makes it much easier to find. So if we're looking at the Big Bear constellation, Ursa Major, is in the northwest. So this is really for those of us in the northern hemisphere, the supernova. Those of you in the southern hemisphere, unfortunately, this is probably too far north for you to see this. So the Big Dipper is, of course, the tail, the back end of the Big Bear. And you see it's made up of 7 stars. It's on its side right now in the mid-evening time for those of us in the northern hemisphere. And if you just trace out the handle of the Big Dipper, the last 2 stars right here, this one over here, Mizar, and Alkaid, basically point to M101, also known as the Pinwheel Galaxy, and I'll center it right there. And guess what? If you look at it, it kind of makes a triangular formation, right? A nice perfect little triangle, an equilateral triangle with these 2 bright naked eye stars. And these stars, by the way, of the Big Dipper are easily visible even in light polluted conditions of typical city suburbs. But the M101, this Pinwheel Galaxy, is about 7.7 or 8th magnitude. But because it's all kind of mushed out with spiral arms, it's very what we call a diffuse, low contrast object. You really need a telescope to really make it out, even though technically with binoculars, you'll probably see the central core, that bulge at the center of the galaxy that you see here. Right there, that little one, that little center is what you would see with binoculars. These spiral arms will only come to light in larger telescopes with very wide angle, low power eyepieces is what you need with your telescope. And good seeing, of course. That's very important. Now, if you want some more information about this, I put together a small little guide for you guys. Top 10 observing tips for this closest supernova visible in the last decade. I'll put a link to this. It's on my website. Just some quick tips. And of course, I've also included some, there's an image showing you the location of the supernova at magnitude 11. It's holding steady, and supernova researchers, by the way, say that this is a very typical supernova, and we think that it may stay this brightness of around magnitude 11 for about 3 months perhaps. So we have time to see it. So you do have time to go and hunt it down with your telescopes. You can see here right there, you see that? That is that little star cloud right next to it. It's called an H2 star forming region. It's a star factory region. It's a gas called a nebulae right next to the supernova. So check that out. That's really good. And I've got some sky charts here. You can see right there, and there's another one that's up closer up, and all my tips on watching it. So check that out. Let me put this link in here for you guys, and after the show, you can take a look and maybe try your hand at finding it. I mean, it's really something. I'm going to be looking at this through my telescope too, and I'll let you guys know how that works out. Now, if we zoom out again from this view and we look for where the moon is, and you can see this is looking around 10 o'clock at night, my time here in around mid-northern latitude, and you can see that the moon is by 10 o'clock is right there. It's called a waning gibbous moon. We can see most of the disk of the moon, but not quite the entirety. We had the full moon just a few days ago, so it's starting to shrink the disk. Less and less of the light of the moon's disk will be lit up, and in a few days it'll be just a crescent moon again. And it is in the constellation Libra right now. But what I'd like you to look at is that the moon is going to be traveling from day to day. So while this is Thursday, the moon is, let me see, just let me put this up to now, and I'm going to just go hour by hour. Just bear with me. There we go. So the moon is actually in Sagittarius today. Tonight, Monday night, as I'm broadcasting this. You can see where the moon is. But if we switch it up from day to day, you can see by Tuesday night, the moon is going to be near the planet Pluto. Now, no hope of seeing Pluto. Pluto's magnitude 14. You need a large telescope, and what makes it worse is you've got this glaring moon next to it. So other than a note of curiosity, I wouldn't say this is any observing event right now that you should mark this down, but it's kind of neat to know that tomorrow night, Tuesday, the two objects will be close together in the sky, Pluto and the moon, that dwarf planet, right? And then if we keep going by Wednesday night, Thursday night, let me just move this by the hour. Hold on. Sometimes you just have to move these. There we go. Hour by hour. This is what I wanted to show you guys. So let me just move this back a day. Check this out. So the moon is going to be near Saturn. And this will happen, mark your calendar, on this is going to be Friday morning, pre-dawn. So the moon will be in the morning sky. So if you're an early bird, this is something that you can watch. The moon will be next to this beautiful yellow star, but it's not a star. It's actually the planet Saturn. So that'll be really pretty to see. And the same site, but this time the moon will hop onto the other side of Saturn. And again, this is going to be in the early morning. So this is like this right now, what you're seeing is set for around 3:30 in the morning on Saturday, but I can go into 4:30, 5:30, you can see the sun is already coming up, sunrise. But see if you can see it just at dawn, just before the sun rises, about a half hour before. It would be a sweet time to see the two together before you lose Saturn in the glare of sunrise. And so again, this is Saturday morning, just a gorgeous sight. The pair will be in the constellation Aquarius. So there you go, folks. Some really cool stuff to see in the sky this week. If you're interested in learning some more about astronomy and sky watching, you're new to this hobby, I've got 2 books for you to check out. My Backyard Guide to the Night Sky, out by National Geographic. It's a bestseller. I've packed it filled with my tips and tricks of how to buy telescopes, binoculars, how to use them, the science behind all these objects that you can see with the naked eye, binoculars and telescopes. So it really gives you a great starting point in learning the hobby. And it's a small little paperback, so you can soft cover, so you can actually take it anywhere with you. And I'm selling signed, dedicated copies on my website. So if you're interested, just go to my website, thenightskyguy.com, and you can pick up your own signed dedicated copy of that. If you're interested in something more meaty, a bigger book, The Stargazer's Atlas. It's a 6.5-pound big coffee table book, massive book by National Geographic. I'm a co-author on this, The Ultimate Guide to the Night Sky. It really brings together all 88 constellations that are visible across the world. Wherever you are, this book is extremely handy because it dives in deep into every single constellation that's out there in terms of visibility across the sky, entire sky, and the mythologies all in there, astrotourism, astroarchaeology, a lot of really cool stuff. It's the complete connection of the night sky with humanity. It's very, very cool. So do check that out. I'm also selling that signed dedicated copies on my website if you're interested. It makes a great gift, perhaps. So if you're like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Show your support, whether you're watching on Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, or YouTube. Please do subscribe to my channel. It means a lot. It allows me to bring these videos every week into your home. And if you like this video, also check out my website, thenightskyguy.com, where I post other interviews that I do on radio and television, and also some feature articles that are for you guys to enjoy. So with that said, thanks so much for joining me this week. I hope you're going to have a great week. Stay safe and healthy. And until the next video, I wish all of you clear skies. Bye-bye.